With significant progress being made around the NFL's second round pick conundrum, things look like they're heading in the right direction for the New Orleans Saints and Tyler Shough. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, Saints quarterback Tyler Shough says the offense is being tailored to him. What does it really mean? We'll dive into all that. We'll also take a look at the New Orleans Saints offensive line, which is a huge story for this year's training camp, and not just because they're in charge of keeping their young quarterback clean and ready to kick everything off with one of those young quarterbacks that might be starting for the New Orleans Saints in 2025. That, of course, is Tyler Shough. Some significant progress made across the NFL, which means significant progress made for Tyler Shough's contract. We got that coming up for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tyler Shough and the New Orleans Saints are going to be much closer now towards getting a deal done. They might be so close, in fact, that the deal might already be finished by the time that you're watching this or listening to this. But I wanted to make sure that we covered this story anyway, because it's really exciting. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be right back here at this very same place next year talking about second round picks all over again. And remember, I told you that same thing last year. If you're an everydayer, you were here for it. I told you last year, hey, second round pick problems not going away for the NFL anytime soon. That will continue to be the case again and again and again until the next CBA is renegotiated and something happens to sort of dictate what's going on with these second round contracts. Here's what you need to know. NFL rookie contracts are previously negotiated, right? It's a collective bargaining agreement. That's how these things work. There's a minimum for veterans. There are also set structures for what your draft pick yields from a year-to-year basis based on relative to the previous year, blah, 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 blah. So you're not really negotiating top-end contract value or anything like that. That's why I constantly emphasize this is not a player or players' representatives versus team thing. This is a players, representatives, and teams waiting to see what the heck is going on with second-round picks across the NFL as a whole. It's a change of precedent, right? So a big part of that, it means that the only thing, because this is previously negotiated, the only thing that teams, players, and their representatives have the ability to negotiate on is a percentage of money that which is guaranteed in a contract. And so we saw Jaden Higgins get the first ever fully guaranteed, 100% guaranteed, second round contract wide receiver from Iowa State when his time with the Houston Texans. And then we saw Carson Schlesinger get the same deal because they didn't really have a choice, the Cleveland Browns, right? Cleveland Browns didn't have a choice. The 34th overall selection, Jaden Higgins got a fully guaranteed deal, which means the 33rd overall selection had to get a guaranteed deal. They didn't have no choice. But I'm sure that they're fine with that. Schlesinger is going to be a very good player in the NFL as long as he stays healthy. So for New Orleans, the biggest piece of kind of progress that's happened at the time that I'm recording this is that pick number 43, Shemar Turner, not Shamar Stewart, who still remains the only first round unpicked prospect with the Cincinnati Bengals, who went back to Texas A&M to practice with them. I don't know. That's a whole weird thing. I'm going to let Cincinnati do their Cincinnati stuff. That Locked On Bengals, they can have all the fun in the world with that. But the 43rd overall selection, Shemar Turner, signed his contract. Okay. So he got an 88% fully guaranteed deal, 87 point, blah, blah, blah. We'll call it 88 because we like to round up here on this show. That is a 10% or thereabout 10% increase in guarantees from the 2024 43rd overall selection and the 2025 43rd overall selection. Sorry, my brain stopped for a second there. So what that means is Tyler Shough's contract is going to be no less than 88% guaranteed, right? The 43rd overall selection got 88% guaranteed. Tyler Shough is the 40th overall pick. He will not go below that mark. So what that does now is that it tells you that the gap of where Tyler Shough can land in terms of guaranteed percentage of his contract is between 100% and 88%. The question is, at what point does the guaranteed contract stop? Right now, there's a depreciating factor of about 1.333% from 34 to 35, from 35 to 36, from 36 to 37. So if the last fully guaranteed second round contract has already been given out at pick 34, that means you subtract 1.333% for each of the next picks in order to even everything out all the way down to 43. That would mean that Tyler Shough would end up with about a 92.002% guaranteed contract. We'll call it a 92% guaranteed contract. And at that point, the haggling between 92% fully guaranteed and 100% guaranteed is like less than $1 million, like right around $1 million. And so with that being the case, it wouldn't be surprising to just see basically picks 34 through 42 just say whatever, it's guaranteed. That won't be the case, right? But it wouldn't be super surprising to see something like that either. So what I'm expecting when it comes to Tyler Shough is that his deal will be somewhere between 90 to 100 million or 100% guaranteed. Like it's going to be somewhere in there. I don't think that picks 95, 96, that picks 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39 all get guaranteed 100% contracts. So I don't think that Tyler Shough is going to get that. I know he plays quarterback, but again, this isn't a player negotiation. This isn't a positional evaluation. This is where were you picked and what do you get, right? So it's just a question of how much becomes guaranteed. So look, I expect that this is going to move fast, right? Like Shemar Turner got his 88% guaranteed deal, and then all of a sudden, like Trey Amos gets his contract in Washington. The Patriots hand out a contract. The Trey Harris with the Los Angeles Chargers gets his contract. Like we're seeing Mike Green gets his contract. Like we're Baltimore. Like we're there. It's all getting done. So there's good progress going on in terms of the conversation, and good progress around the NFL in this situation means good progress for the New Orleans Saints as well. Now, when will Tyler Shough sign his contract? I've seen a lot of question marks about this. Well, they need to get it done soon. They got to get it done soon. They got to get it done soon. Not necessarily. Like, it makes no difference if Tyler Shough signs his contract today on Friday or if he signs it on Tuesday when he reports for training camp, because practices don't start until Wednesday. They can't put him out on the field earlier than that, right? So I would expect personally, like this is not an insider thing. This isn't a sourced thing. This is just based on what we've seen for years in the past with New Orleans, Alontae Taylor, other second round picks in the past. We've seen this over and over again. Typically, they sign when they report for training camp because that's when they're in the building. That's when they can walk up the stairs. That's when they can take an ink pen, and that's when they can put it on some paper. Like that's typically how this works. And so maybe we hear something over the course of the weekend that's like, hey, the Saints and Tyler Shough have made their agreement, right? Have come to an agreement on their contract, and it's going to be this much guaranteed, this many percent guaranteed. But I don't expect that contract to actually be signed until Tuesday. So if you don't hear anything until Tuesday, don't panic. It's fine. That's just literally when they're in the same vicinity as one another and when he can legitimately put pen to paper, right? And until pen to paper is in, nothing's official. And so I feel like the Saints have done a really good job keeping things very closed up. Like there's some things that locally we've known, but they've done a very good job like keeping things closed up since before the hire of Kellen Moore. So it wouldn't be shocking to me that really that contract doesn't become official until until they can post the photo of him literally sitting down and signing the paper, or one of us locally gets it, right? Like, so I think that that's what we're going to see here. Don't panic. It's fine. It's going to be okay. By Tuesday, this contract is probably done. If not, it's not going to take very long, a day or two of training camp, whatever. If it gets into a longer time than that, then something else has gone wrong. But if it stays to just what's going on around the NFL, this should be taken care of quickly. Should be done in time for Tyler Shough to hit the field on Wednesday. All right, coming up next, speaking of hitting the field on Wednesday, training camp, less than a week away. I'm so excited. And so that means that we're going to continue looking at our positional previews for training camp. And the offensive line is one of the biggest stories of camp going in. We got that coming up for you next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Don't you wish sometimes that managing your finances was just a lot easier? Well, thanks to Monarch Money, it is and it can be. It's like your own personal CFO that's not going to get in trouble at a Coldplay concert hanging out with your HR person. You ain't got to worry about any of that because it's a fantastic app that's going to have everything taken care of for you. You got everything from managing your finances in terms of spending to budgeting to investments to goals that you want to set for yourself moving forward, investments as well. Like there is so much for you to check out with this app, and it helps you a ton. There was a time when I first signed up for it, it helped me know what subscriptions I didn't think I was paying for anymore, but I was paying for. It also helped me out in terms of budgeting, letting me know where my spending was highest. And so whether you're spending a lot of money buying sandwiches or you spend a lot of money managing a sandwich shop, take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com. You'll get 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, family. One of the biggest storylines of the 2025 New Orleans Saints training camp process is going to be its offensive line as a whole. And really, it's 5 categories that I really want to dive into. We'll talk about the starting 5. We'll dive into the specific piece of the starting 5 that's the biggest question mark, which is Trevor Penning. Then we'll take a look at the depth, run game, pass game. Those are all the things we're going to be focused on here. Let's fly through it. The starting 5, I think, is already set. I have been really, really firm on this since OTAs or wherever it was that we first saw Kelvin Banks Jr. line up at left tackle, Taliese Fuaga move over to right tackle, Trevor Penning plug in at left guard, and then, of course, Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz at center and right guard, respectively. That was going to be the week 1 offensive line, so long as everybody stays healthy. And I still very much believe that. As we went through mini camps and things like that, didn't see anything change for the Saints during that time. We'll probably see some shuffling during training camp, but my expectation will be so that this guy gets a day off, so that that guy gets a day off. Like it's going to be more spelling in terms of rotation than it's going to be, oh, we got to figure out if there's another guy that can plug in here. So I'm very confident in the idea that Kelvin, going from left to right, Kelvin Banks Jr., the rookie starting left tackle, Outland trophy winner or award winner, Lombardi award winner, consensus All-American, just a phenomenal football player as a whole, that he'll be there at left tackle, holding on to his collegiate position. Trevor Penning is going to take all that aggression and phenomenal run blocking ability and 6'7", big-bodied frame, plug that in at left guard, be a little bit of a Mekhi Becton type for New Orleans. Then you got Eric McCoy, your best offensive lineman, one of the best centers in the NFL. I'm going through some of the numbers of the kind of plus minus of plays when Eric McCoy was on the field, when he wasn't on the field, when he was on the field with Derek Carr, when he was on the field without Derek Carr, so on and so forth. And the numbers tell you that Eric McCoy is an incredibly valuable player to this team because the performance when he's on the field versus the performance when he's off the field are nowhere near one another. So he's going to be there for you at center. Cesar Ruiz sticking around at right guard, and then Taliese Fuaga, after coming off that outstanding rookie season at left tackle, moving back to his collegiate position of right tackle, should fit in and feel right at home right there. So starting 5, I believe, is set going into 2025. I'd be surprised if there's a lot of shuffling going on in training camp. Let's see what happens. Depth, much better for the New Orleans Saints going into 2025. Do you want to rely on it? No. Do you want to have to turn to it for 7, 8, 12, 13 games? No. But are you in a much better place with it if you're the New Orleans Saints? 100% yes. The additions alone of Dylan Radins as well as Will Clapp Jr. are outstanding additions for really good, experienced, versatile, right? Very important, offensive linemen. So if you want 8 offensive linemen active on game day and you got your starting 5, you got a guy like Dylan Radins who can play either tackle spot and either guard spot. You got a guy in Will Clapp that can play either guard spot and play center. And then you can add another player like a Landon Young who can play both tackle and guard, right? So you have the ability to be able to move these guys around. We'll see what happens with Nick Saldiveri. Remember, Nick Saldiveri played tackle at college, moved over to guard in the pros, was a guy that tested really well as a center performed really well as a center during the Senior Bowl. So maybe there's some versatility there if he can stay healthy and stay on the field. all of those players absolutely in that conversation. But then you think about Torricelli Simpkins, the Gamecocks guy that comes in as a great young backup, young developmental piece. You look at Easton Kilty, who is a part of that offensive line factory of North Dakota State University, same alma mater as Dylan Radins, although Kilty also got a year following the coaches that left NDSU to go to Kansas State. Kilty left NDSU, went to Kansas State to get an extra year with those guys that are the offensive line manufacturers and gurus of college football. So I'm very high on him too. So I think the Saints have done a lot of things that will improve their ability to be able to manage attrition on the offensive line. And I'm really excited to see those players really get to work during training camp. And look, still wouldn't be surprised to see the Saints add players to that list as well. I mean, look, you have the opportunity during training camp to cycle out some guys from your 90-man roster that you've gotten a look at that you know aren't going to make the 53, cycle them out, bring in some new guys to get a look at on that 90-man roster. That way, when you get to weeks 10, 11, 12, even if those guys don't make your active roster, but you need to pick up the phone and call somebody, you're not calling people based on their draft evaluations from 5 years ago. You're calling them based on the fact that you got to look at them 3 months ago in training camp and you liked what you saw, but you just didn't have room for them on the roster, right? So that's another big piece of how like training camp ends up unfolding in terms of looking at all of that depth. Now, the biggest question mark on the New Orleans Saints offensive line for me is Trevor Penning. Not in a negative way where like we're doubting that Trevor Penning can work for the Saints at left tackle or anything like that, or left guard or anything like that. But really it's just about like, can he do it? Like, will he be able to do it? It's not a doubt. It's just, that's the biggest question mark, right? Kelvin Banks Jr. is coming in as a fresh first-time starter. That's a question mark too, but that question mark feels a little bit smaller, right? It feels like a font size 12, maybe like a pretty standard question mark, font size 11. But then you get to Trevor Penning and it's more like a font size 15, font size 13, like slightly bigger. Like you just have a little bit more of a question mark there. And I think it's because like, all right, didn't work out at left tackle. Honestly, kind of worked at right tackle, but then now gets the opportunity to move inside and do something that he's never done before. Like that's a little bit of a question mark, right? It's going to be a bigger question mark. So for me, like if Trevor Penning works out, that's the linchpin potentially for this offensive line going into 2025. I mean, Eric McCoy is your linchpin, right? We've seen what happens when the Saints do have him versus when the Saints don't have him. But if you're looking for something outside of that, like Trevor Penning panning out as a really good to let's say good to great left guard, where in a league that doesn't have very good interior offensive line play, not in droves, right? That's a good situation for New Orleans. That's a great situation for Trevor Penning. So that is where I put that situation in terms of where's that biggest question mark. Definitely there with Trevor Penning. Okay, let's discuss the run game. The run game, which I think is going to be the primary feature of Kellen Moore's offense in 2025, at least early on in the season, because you're not going to walk in with either one of those quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shough, and say, all right, go out there and be a gunslinger. Like this is you, this is yours, all this stuff. You're going to try to take the pressure off of them a little bit. You're going to game plan. You're going to do all these things to kind of try to take a little bit of the pressure off. And the run game is what's going to help you be able to do that. So I look at this New Orleans Saints run game as being a big time piece. We get our first look at it in earnest over the course of not just the training camp weeks, but the preseason as well. Remember, we didn't get a chance to see any team drills during OTAs or mini camp. This will be our first opportunity to really lay our eyes on what that run game is going to look like. If it's on and popping in the run game, that's good news for the young quarterbacks. Great news for the experienced running backs that they have in the building as well, and the young running backs as well. Passing game wise, this is all about protecting your young quarterback, keeping them clean. That's what it's all going to be about. Nice and simple. Don't really need to elaborate from there, honestly, because it's just kind of like, yeah, duh, great analysis, Ross, you dummy. But really, like, that's the most important thing for this team when it comes to the passing game. That's just going to be keeping this quarterback clean, making sure that the quarterbacks have the opportunity to be able to read through their progressions and make good decisions. Good decisions are made when you've got time. Bad decisions are made when you're under pressure. Keep them out of pressure and help them have a good time. That's what you're looking for from this New Orleans Saints offensive line. Can't wait to see all of it start to come together next week as the New Orleans Saints report for training camp. Coming up next, I want to go through 3 stories, including story number 1. Tyler Shough says that the offense being built towards him. I'm going to tell you why that's not something to really start running away with just yet. Let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Tyler Shough said that the offense in New Orleans is being tailored to him, but I don't think he's the only quarterback that's having that conversation. We appreciate you as always being here with us for another episode of Locked On Saints. Don't forget to subscribe, like, do all that good stuff and everything here to help us out as we get closer and closer to training camp. And I want to remind you about the Insider program as well, a great way to get early information on everything from uniform releases to, of course, training camp and everything like that. So make sure you come through for that. You click the link in the description. You text Who Dat to 504-285-7473 to get joined. $5 a month, buy me a cup of coffee, get some extra stuff and some film studies, like all the good stuff. All right, so for New Orleans, there was a conversation that happened between New Orleans Saints rookie quarterback Tyler Shough and Todd McShay that kind of ended in this quote or ended up in this quote becoming public around the idea that Tyler Shough said, hey, yeah, no, we're having conversations and they're tailoring the offense around me. And that is me paraphrasing that conversation. But I think that is an important conversation that the New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, everybody that's helping to, TJ Paganetti and Brendan Nugent and Joel Thomas, like all these people that are helping to build this offense, they should absolutely be having that conversation with Tyler Shough. What do you like? What are you comfortable with? Going through and running through like down and distance and game situations. What do you feel comfortable with here? What do you think we should do here? All those other things. But to think that Tyler Shough is the only one that they're having that conversation with, to me, feels a little disingenuous. I think that they're probably having that conversation with both Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler. In fact, I'll tell you, I've been given strong indications that conversations are happening like that with both of these quarterbacks. Now, I could be getting played, right? I could be being told, hey, no, they're totally having that conversation with both of these quarterbacks so that no more of the quiet part gets said out loud and everything like that. And so I acknowledge that. But so far, everything that I've understood is that these conversations are happening with both of these quarterbacks. And so I think that that's important. And in fact, I think that should be the case anyway. And I'll go so far as to say that it would be foolish if it wasn't happening with both of these quarterbacks because you don't know which one's your starter yet. And even if you do, you don't know who's going to be your starter midway through the season because this is the time where you're still wanting to install an offense that both of these quarterbacks is going to be comfortable running. You're going to have an offense that still tailors itself a little bit to Tyler Shough, but you're going to need to be ready to tailor things to Spencer Rattler as well in this new offense. And so you're going to be having those conversations, I believe, with both of these quarterbacks. So I wouldn't run away with this just yet to say, oh, well, Tyler Shough's already been given the starting job. I believe Tyler Shough's probably going to be the starter week one because he was the investment. He was Kellen Moore's draft pick, all those other things. I think that Spencer Rattler has had the more impressive, more consistent showing so far, but there's still a bunch of weeks of training camp and all these other things that are going to go in. So don't think that the Saints have just blindly made their decision just yet without seeing either of these guys in the new offense under the lights and without seeing either of these guys under the offense throwing passes with an offensive line in front of them. Don't think that the conversation's just over like that and that Spencer Rattler's not going to get his opportunity and that Tyler Shough's not going to get his own opportunity and that they're just going to make the decision out the back. We'll see how things go. But I wouldn't run away with this one here just yet. Something that happened across the NFL, literally across to the other side of the country, where the Saints will be practicing later on this year in California, that does impact the Saints potentially, is the random and surprising, though not entirely surprising, retirement of wide receiver Mike Williams with the Los Angeles Chargers. Ross, what the heck does that have to do with the New Orleans Saints? Well, if you're somebody that was thinking about Keenan Allen potentially coming here and helping out the New Orleans Saints as another one of those productive, physical, possession wide receivers, that job might have just gotten a little bit, or that idea might have just gotten a little bit tougher to fulfill because Mike Williams retiring over in Los Angeles feels like something that might pull Keenan Allen back over to Los Angeles, and for that matter, pull Los Angeles back to Keenan Allen. And so that's just something I wanted to highlight here that that's one of those moves that happens all the way across in a different conference and everything. And that doesn't happen with the team that you cover or the team that you root for and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden it ends up having this ripple effect that kind of impacts the team that you cover and the team that you're rooting for. And so I wanted to highlight hey, that's something to watch. Could we potentially see Keenan Allen head over back to Los Angeles now that Mike Williams has retired? And so that leaves the Saints again in this situation where they feel very comfortable with their wide receiver room. But if they wanted to add another veteran presence, if they wanted to add another physical presence, the sweepstakes for Keenan Allen potentially just got a little bit tougher. Let's just say it that way. And then finally, July 22nd is not only the date that the Saints report for training camp, both veterans and rookies. It could be the day that Tyler Shough ends up signing his contract. If he doesn't sign it before, who knows? You could be watching or listening to this and he might have already signed his contract. So we'll see where things go with all that. But for New Orleans, the other thing that happens on the 22nd is that they're going to unveil, I believe, its new uniforms. And this is something we've been expecting over the course of the offseason. This is an exciting thing. We know and knew that they were, premiering the new helmet, which they did back a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago. And so that's already happened. And so we were wondering, like, are they still going to do the uniform, or was it actually just like, was the reporting around the uniform, a little bit, it was really just a uniform, or really just a helmet. It wasn't actually a helmet and a uniform, but it looks like we're going to get another uniform look for the New Orleans Saints. And I think it might be gold. I'll give you two reasons why. If you watch the video that's up on the New Orleans Saints page, you'll see Cam Jordan carrying in a uniform bag or an equipment bag that's gold. Those bags are typically black, and Cam Jordan's been petitioning for a long time for a gold jersey. So maybe we finally see a gold, potentially even throwback jersey. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens on the 22nd. All right, y'all. See you after the weekend. We appreciate you very much, as always, making us a party day part of your routine, for saying yes to me and the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you.